I'm Laura Vitale, and on this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I'm going to show you guys how to make a caramel apple upside down cake. Now, I know it sounds ridiculously amazing, and it is, and I can just promise you that it is super easy to make. First thing you want to do, preheat oven 325, get that out of the way. Second thing you want to do is get your ingredients lined up, and I'm going to show you what those are. You're going to need some all-purpose flour, some granulated sugar, brown sugar, whole milk, unsalted butter, eggs, some more unsalted butter, an orange, some ground cinnamon, baking powder, salt, nutmeg, and you're going to need some vanilla extract, and of course, the apples. And I'm using two, not Granny Smith apples, I'm sorry, Golden Delicious apples, just because it's my favorite apple of all time, and it's my favorite baking apple because it really stands up well to heat. It doesn't completely fall apart like a Macintosh would. A Macintosh apple, if you cook it, it kind of turns into like applesauce, which is great. It's like the apple to use if you want to make applesauce. But if you want to make something like this, or like an apple pie, I really suggest using a Golden Delicious. They're not as like sour as Granny Smith, but they're my favorite. So, all right, preheat oven 325, get that out of the way. And I also want to point out that I am making this entire cake with just a bowl, a whisk, and a wooden spoon or a spatula, whatever you got. I got a lot of comments. I get a lot of questions whenever I bake. Can I just use it without a mixer? Can I just do it by hand? And the answer to all those questions are yes. You can bake anything by hand. I just prefer to use a mixer just because it's easier, but you can bake anything by hand. Whatever recipe I make using the mixer, you know you can do it yourself. Just a bowl, a whisk, a wooden spoon, you're good to go. All right, first thing I'm gonna do, now I have butter here. I have a half a stick of unsalted butter at room temperature, nice and soft, and that's for the cake batter. We're not gonna use that yet. And then I also have a 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, and I'm gonna bring this to the stove because I'm just gonna cook this and the brown sugar together to make like a little caramel to go underneath of our baking pan, which by the way, it's an 8x8, and I've sprayed it and lined the bottom with parchment paper. All right, let's go over to the stove to get these two cooking, and then we'll come back. I got my 1/4 cup of butter here, melted. Now to that, I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar, and just mix this together and let the brown sugar kind of melt with the butter and bring it to a boil. Once the brown sugar butter mixture is up to a boil, turn the heat off, and I'll meet you back on the counter. Add my brown sugar and butter mixture ready. And now all I'm gonna do, and it's okay if it looks like it's splitting. It's perfectly fine. It's gonna do that. I'm just gonna lay this out just like so. Okie doke, at the bottom of my pan. Just put this back here. Now my apples, I've taken 2 apples, cut them in half, quartered them, sliced them thinly, and then I just put about a teaspoon of fresh lemon juice on there just to stop them from turning brown. Okay, now remember, this is going to be the top of the cake. So you want to arrange your apples in a way that they look nice. So here's what I do. Whoops, be careful of that hot sugar. By just overlapping them, I just make a row. And you might have to do like 2 rows, one on top of the other, and that's fine. But just keep going until you have a full row of apples, and then if you still have apples remaining, just do another row on top. Now I have my apples laid out, setting these aside. Okay, time to make the actual cake. This is super, super easy. I'm gonna need about a 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I have here some cinnamon, baking soda, and salt. And I'm just mixing these together, just like so. You really don't have to mix them too much. All right, set those aside. Next, we're gonna take our butter. This is a 1/2 cup of room temperature butter and a cup of granulated sugar. And all I'm gonna do to this is just slowly but surely, you know what, this is easier if you use a spatula just to get you going. Just like so. And then once you have it just about combined, you can switch to a whisk and just kind of whisk it together until it's like nice and fluffy. I have my butter and sugar mixed together. Whoops, that's fine. Now I'm gonna add in my eggs. I have 2 eggs and some vanilla. If I ever can get this open. I don't know why I have such a difficulty with it. But a 1/2 teaspoon. just like so, and just, again, mix it until it's nice and fluffy and combined. That's perfect. I'm just gonna use now some orange zest. Now, I use orange zest a lot around this time of year, and I put it into my apple pie, and it tastes divine, and I also put it in my carrot cake. It's just that little something that kind of breaks through the richness, and it's just so good. And you don't need very much. You probably need about a teaspoon, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. Like I said, you really don't need very much because it is kind of potent, but it makes a huge difference. It really does. Just that tiny little bit, about a half a teaspoon, will do the trick. Okay, we have that combined. Now I'm gonna just take some nutmeg, and I'm just gonna grate about 1/8 of a teaspoon, not much because nutmeg is so strong, into my dry ingredients. Now these are flavors that I put into my apple pie. So why not put it in an apple cake, right? So that's what I did, and it's just such a winner every time, and this cake is just so good. It tastes, the top of the cake, it tastes like a caramel apple. Who doesn't love that? And then the actual cake just tastes like a spongy apple pie. I really can't describe it. It's just so good. All right, now we're gonna add the dry ingredients and the milk, half of the dry ingredients and half of the milk. You don't want to put it all at once because, well, if I put all the milk at first and then the flour, it's too runny. If I do the opposite, if I put all the flour first and the milk, and this gets too dry. I don't know why, but this just works really well. Just mix it just enough to combine everything, but don't over mix it, otherwise you'll get bread. Now the last of the milk and the dry ingredients. This is just mixed, which is exactly how I want it. I don't want to over mix. Remember, you never want to over mix when you make cakes. Okay, now I'm just gonna spoon this over my apple mixture. Just want to make sure you level it out because you want an even cooking time on everything. You don't want one side to be really huge and then the other side not. So you just want to take a few seconds to just make sure it's nice and even. And I just have a wooden spoon helping me out. Now I'm going to just, that's done. Now I'm just going to put this into my preheated 325 oven. And I did want to mention, you want to make sure the oven rack is in the middle of the oven, not too low, otherwise it will scorch the bottom. You don't want that. So this is going to go in 325 for about 55 minutes to an hour. Check it at 50 minutes with a toothpick, insert it in. If the actual cake comes out, if the actual part of the cake comes out nice and clean, then you know your cake is done. If not, just keep checking on it every 5 minutes to make sure you cook it just all the way through, but not overcooking it. All right, here she goes. Now our cake baked exactly for 55 minutes at 325, and I've let it cool for 15 minutes. Now I'm just gonna run my knife just to loosen it, just around like so. Just wanna make sure the sides are loose so that it comes out really easily. Okay, now I'm just gonna put over a plate. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I heard it. Woo! Okay, so one apple fell overboard, but oh well. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Doesn't that just look scrumptious? This is so amazing. Okay, I'm gonna cut myself a little piece, but first, I just want to dust it with powdered sugar. Doesn't do that well of a job if it's not cool, because it's still really, really hot. And I'm just gonna cut a small piece so that you can see the inside. Look at that moist, fluffy cake. Look at that. That smells so good. I'm so excited to try it. Okay. Oh my goodness. This is so amazing. Wow. It's so light, fluffy, and the topping just tastes like a caramel apple. If you're looking for a recipe that is just out of this world, super, super simple for an apple cake, then you have come to the right place. To get this recipe and other recipes, check out my website, www.laurenthekitchen.com. And I hope you have a wonderful